Hey everyone, welcome to Code with Me. We'll wait just a couple minutes for folks to roll in and we'll get started. And I need to share my screen. Good to go. All right, if you are here, let me know in the chat. Say hi. And we are starting a new project today. It's going to be a bit exploratory. There are different features that I want to think about and explore here together, and we'll start building it. The idea for this project is to have a tutorial extension. So my thought right now is that it'd be something like a window that would dock over to one of these sides, and it'd have a step-by-step tutorial. And so it would be, some introduction, and then you press the next button, and it says step 1, blah 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 blah. Now you do it, and maybe it has, it just says, click on the create menu and click on cone, and you've created a cone. And then there would be some button potentially to validate, to make sure that you did whatever you were asked to do correctly. And maybe a reset button to reset the scene to some safe state for that step. So some folks might, they might only do what they're told to do in the tutorial. Others might be like, well, actually, that was cool. Let me try creating a cube. And I'll see if I'm smart enough to code around those things. But if not, my get out of jail free card is that reset button. So they would lose the work that if for example, I wanted to reset the stage to step 1, they would lose that work that they did with the cube. But I'd get them into a safe state. So then when they finally decide to follow the instructions and I can validate, then hopefully we're good. And once they've finished that first step, we can then go on to the next button and a back button to go back and forth between those steps. There is also a potential for doing some cool like overlay windows. So like as they're doing these steps, hopefully be able to do like an arrow pointing to the create menu so that they can go and click on that and maybe direct them to the part of the app that I want them to go to. So that would be a nice feature. I'm also, good morning, Funky Boy and Data Juggler. I'm also thinking about this documentation builder extension where we have it's interactive, and it's also built from markdown files. So that might be a nice feature to be able to build out these tutorials. So I'm building the framework. The idea is that anybody could come in and build tutorials off of using that framework for whatever purpose, whether it's artist workflows, creator workflows, where you're just giving them instructions on the UI, or maybe it's a developer tutorial and it uses the script editor, and so they write code for each, maybe for each step, and they run it, and then you validate that the code they ran did what it was supposed to do. Hey, Midas. So, and so the idea behind the documentation builder is can I leverage something like that to make it easy for others to come in and build tutorials without having to write a bunch of code. Hopefully the majority would be Markdown. So we'll explore that a bit. And that's it. I'm totally accepting feedback as I go through this. I don't have a clear idea of where I'm taking it. At least I know what the goal is, but we can be flexible in the way that we build it. Something else. Yeah, I think we can get started. So I could start building the UI just so that we can be kind of just have something to talk about, make sure we're all on the same page here. So let's do that a little bit. I'm going to get rid of this public function. I don't need it. We'll call this tutorial framework core extension, or just tutorial framework extension. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Do that. We don't need this. We don't need any of that for now. And we have our main window. I want to do potentially, I do want a VStack. I want with UI dot rolling frame. Some stuff here. And we'll say this is okay. And then at the bottom, I'm going to want maybe like a H stack and 2 buttons. It'll be a button back. Do a spacer to separate these. Previous is a better verb here. Or okay, so that's pretty good, right? We gotta start. I'm just gonna make the height for those buttons 0. That'll be closer to what I'm after. Make the whole stack 0. Right? And I think we can duck this here. So that's starting to look like what we'd expect. I'm going to undock it just so that we can see the scrolling frame a little bit better. So let's make a bunch of these for X in range 100. Come on. What did I do wrong there? Because I need a container. Scrolling frame only accepts one item, one widget. So we make the VStack its container widget, and then we can put a bunch in there. So there we go. And now we've got a scrolling frame, right? So that means our tutorial content will fit a lot better in there. And if it overflows, that's good. That's fine. Now that kind of simulates, a bunch of paragraphs that I might write to tell people about things. The other elements that I want, so I'm thinking of each step, and we can call it a step, we can call it a task, and each step is going to have potentially an optional reset button. Some tutorial makers, or tutorial authors may choose not to use that, and a validation button, right? So that we can check people's work, hopefully. The validation might be a stretch. That's the other bit that I need to explore is, do I write custom code for every step to validate that? Could I, USD has this tool called USD diff. Could I diff the stage of where I want it to, what the result that I want of the stage with what the users created, and could I compare that way? That's going to be pretty rigid if I use a tool like that. So that would be another avenue to explore that we can take here. But nonetheless, those buttons need to show up somewhere. I suppose they should be outside of the scrolling frame. Maybe we put them up here. This is like the UX teams probably, if they ever watch this, they'll be like, no. From what I remember, Western world would read from left to right, so, and top to bottom. So if you want them to take an action before they click next, it'd probably have to be somewhere down here. But I don't like the look that I imagine we'd get. But let's just throw it there. We can always move it. So we'll do two buttons there. It's just another H stack right above that one. So these will be, well, maybe they're always shown, but maybe disabled if they're not used. Set and check. Validate is probably a good verb for now. It's a little bit more height. Let's give each button a width of 0. So that we scrunch those buttons. They'll just take up the space that they need for their labels. Did I save that? Oh, what did I write? White? All right, something like that. So that's basically the skeleton of what we need. Now the question would be, how do we generate this content per step? So I wanted to take a look at this UI doc. Documentation builder is what it uses under the hood. Yeah. So if we look at this code, I don't think I want to depend on this extension, but I do want to at least look at some of the logic here. So they're using regex to find the different parts of the markdown. And process lines. So potentially we're feeding just the markdown string of the markdown, or maybe per a list with rows. Yeah. Then we pop off the zero, the first element, and we check to see if it's a heading one, then process it as a heading one. And we're adding blocks. So they did quite a bit of work here. There it is. All it's doing is adding blocks to this internal list. Block is a named tuple. Okay. And then where's the actual building process? This is probably, this is only gathering the data, and it's not being built there. It's probably going to be in here. Yep, that's a class that we used, that we were just looking at. And here it's building it. So if the block type is that one, then we do this business. Okay. So it's doing a lot more work than I thought it would be to get this done. Any questions on this one? So this one's pretty set on creating a dock window. I could leverage this and potentially this. My only hesitation with this is that I would definitely be using it in a way that it was probably not intended to be used. So I'd have to check to see what kind of plans I have for this extension. Otherwise, we're talking about potentially copying these two extensions, these two classes. But it does look fairly good. I don't even need all of it. No. It looks like Sphinx. So the alternative is we write code for each step, which would be ugly. So I think we have to do this. Okay. Let's go ahead and copy that over, I think. The other thing that I could do first is kind of get that step switching sorted out. So the idea would be that as I switch steps, I also probably need a title outside of this scrolling frame, so you always know what step you're on. So let's go ahead and add that. Center. I think that'll do it. Nope, I got an error. Line 18. I don't need a width there. Go. Cool. So I just need let's shrink that, and we can change the font later. Okay. So in this scrolling frame, this is where I probably just need to break this out into a window class now. So let's window class import on the UI as UI class tutorial window And we're going to inherit from the window. And not anything yet. Title will be tutorial. That's all I was doing back here. There it is too. Do that. Okay. Potentially, thinking of these things as I go is that we would probably have a singleton of this window, and you could only be running one tutorial at a time. That would help avoid issues. Cool. Need to do set build function. And self.frame set function. Private. Window. Now we can drop all of this logic in here. And then we can do from dot window import tutorial window. And if I did everything correctly, should have the same result. Yep, cool. No errors. I'm just going to clear this so we don't get confused if there are any future errors, and it looks good. So now we can talk about switching tasks. So what I want to do is I want to do self dot step frame is equal to, well, what happens if we do it in here? Okay, so we're going to make a frame in here, and with self.step frame, or I suppose this is where we do self.step frame set build function. And this could probably be its own class too, but let's just see what happens. Okay. So now we'll pass in, we'll use that one. And that means that when it gets built, so if my theory is correct, they should be the same. So back in here, and we got nothing. Did we get it? Still loading. There we go. Cool. Still good. So now potentially, no, we don't want that one. Now potentially we can have steps. I won't yet, but I'll just do it for now. I don't want it in the constructor. I want it in the constructor because I potentially want to have create a step object beforehand with all the content, and then later on when I'm ready to build the step frame, then I would call this build function. And I'm kind of wondering if the step should rebuild itself, or should the, I have this set build function on this frame, but this could be a frame, or it could have a frame and it rebuilds itself. But I'm fairly sure I want it on the outside. Okay. So here we'll do something silly like lines is equal to 10, x is equal to hello world. Okay. And then the build function will do. Where is that? Yeah, it's in here. We're good. Yeah, we put a VStack, we do that. And then this would be self.numLines. This would be self.text, and I see that I have an error here. I'll fix that right now. Self. All right. I don't need that there. And now we can do some steps. So we can say 1 is equal to step 50. This is step 1. I also need a title, right? Because, I'll need to go back and figure that out. Okay. And then self.steps. Okay. So eventually, I also need to say step am I on? And then step is equal to step index step.build. Okay. And then let's put a quick function here. This is not safe, right? If I may have an index error. This is just to illustrate to you and to me I'm on the right track. Okay. So whoops, I need to set these functions up. Clicked function is equal to self previous function. And I think it's that. And then this one function is equal to wonderful. Now let's see what this thing did. Step one, we're on step one. Remember, the title isn't going to change because I messed that up. No, why didn't you work? Because I didn't tell it to rebuild the frame. Okay, so when we increase or decrease, we need to say self dot frame dot rebuild. Rebuild. Okay, rebuild is going to call the set build, the function that I cite here for set build function, which would be this one. We're going to get a new step and we're going to build, and it's going to clear the frame before we rebuild. So step one, step two, step three. I'm not going to go past that because that's going to error. But yeah, and you can see here the scroll bar is changing because each one has a different amount of lines. And if I do next, then I get that index that error. So that's expected. But so far so good. Any questions? So what did we learn here? We need to, next step would be, we need to move this into the frame, which means that my step frame should actually be outside of my scrolling frame, which means blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That it's going to come in here. We're going to call build. We're going to do a VStack here. The UI label, then the scrolling frame, then a VStack within the scrolling frame, and all that other business. So now what I can do, we're going to make this even better in the future for the end of this session. Title is going to be equal to step one. And so that means that this is going to be self.title. And that means that now we need to put the title in here. Step one. So Funky Boy wants to know if this would be for DLI courses. It could be. It could be. This is going to be a proof of concept. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. At the very least, I think folks in the community might find this helpful. And I think say somebody wants to that they're using Omniverse in their company, they're going to want to be able to teach their coworkers, the employees in that company, how to do custom workflows in their companies. So I think this will be handy for everyone that wants to have tutorial content within their apps. So. And then the reason I laughed is because Funky Boy asked, how many varies are we up to for when 105 comes out? I think I'm just going to count varies because I lost track, but I think we're like at 9 varies. Very, 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 very soon. Thanks for asking. Now the team's working hard on it. I just being silly, but it's coming, and it's looking really good. So step 1, step 2, step 3. There's something funky there with that. Oh, okay. It's like it's not clearing. For some reason, that one's not getting cleared. Let's take a look at that. But that's what at the very least, that's part of what my goal was getting the title to switch with the content. I'm not sure why that's not getting cleaned up yet, because you can see here that the scrolling frame is properly getting cleaned up. So it could be due to index out of ranger. Let's save one more time and see what's up. Oh, it's because I have multiple windows here, mostly because I didn't clean up correctly after myself. I think there's a bit of a delay between when Kit 105 comes out and when USD Composer or any of the other Foundation apps come out. That's how it's been historically. So that's what I would expect. It's been in the past. It's been anywhere from like a week to a month. I don't know. I might be making that up, but I've definitely seen like a week turnaround. Cool. So I got that. Okay, so this should be working. I need to go back and make sure I'm cleaning stale windows. But yeah, now we don't get any dirtiness there. So we'll sort that out. So now we can be a little bit smarter about this build function. We can do title. Yeah. I may or may not use this in the end, but this is how a little bit cleaner here is that if I wanted somebody to use this, they would likely this is the function that I would want them to overwrite. And so So, that way I have a consistent title all the time. And then the person that uses this framework would just focus on the UI for the content. Which, if, like I said, if we go towards the markdown approach, then this build content would be less of a focus. It would just be the interchangeable part. In this engine would be the markdown file. The way that I've designed it here, it would probably be something like where you would potentially inherit from step and do your version of it. But this is fine. This makes sense in my head for now. So this is reset. You can see here that I should probably fix that cleanup now. Yeah, let's do that. So the question is, what is not getting cleaned up? Function. Maybe I just need to get rid of the window on load. So on down, I just do window. Whoops. Destroy self dot window equals none. That can give me a better result here. What did I mess up? There with the delete. Okay. So far so good. I'm curious why it loops, and anyways, this is all kind of prototypey, so I'm not worried about it. Reset. And then I'm going to save and run again. So now it reloaded and one window. Yeah, I think that was it. I just needed to delete destroy the window on extension shutdown. Cool. So we've got about 10 minutes left. Reset to me is just going to open a stage. So if you want to use this feature, I think the best option I have is for the tutorial content creator to just provide a starting point for each step, and I can just reopen the stage. I think that's what I'm thinking right now. and validate, we can look at USD diff. So this is what I'm thinking. So it seems like this is a straight up text compare, which, depending on what we're doing, can be usable. In other situations, it might not be helpful at all. What I'm thinking is, if the tutorial involves some fuzzy instruction like use the manipulator to drag the cube, and they put it anywhere, then that sort of validation is not going to help. That's where maybe I would do some custom validation to say, oh yeah, the cube was definitely moved in its x-axis with the but it's changed. They definitely moved it. We could have very strict, not strict, but very targeted validation, so that maybe we give the content creator some structure to specify. After this step, I would expect the prim at world cube to have this property set to this value, or and then we can specify some syntax to represent some wiggle room as far as what the value could be for that. That would be one way to go about it. Any thoughts if you were to use this? If you were to create a tutorial with this, would you use the validation? I think that's something that would set this apart from a DLI, right? I think DLIs typically I don't think there's a way to validate that somebody is still on track as they go through the tutorial, through the course. So that's my goal with the validation, is to make sure nobody's left behind. DLI is the Deep Learning Institute. It's we have courses, NVIDIA has courses that we provide, and that's this here. So there's different formats for this, but for the most part, I think the most common might be where you there's this USD one. It spins up this virtual machine with a Jupyter Notebook, and it'll have the instructions, and you can play around with the code, but there isn't really a confirmation that you've understood that you're understanding what you're doing. typically we'd probably do that with like a test at the end, right? Some questions to see how much you understood what was taught. Is there a tutorial for building a separate app like View or Create? I did a live stream on creating an app, but it's going to change definitely for the better. So I would probably wait until Kit 105 and do that. But I'll link to that. We have the Kit app template is there. Sorry. There's the video that I did, and then I should also grab from the developer guide. You can go to build apps, and there's instructions here with the primer on how to build an app with the Kit app template, and then this is the video that I just linked, and this documentation page. So check that out. It doesn't hurt to go through it. You'll have a pretty good, you'll learn a lot and be everything most of everything that you'll learn will be applicable to the new template that's coming with Kit 105. But if you've got other things to focus on, and you can come back to this in a month, in very, very soon, then you can just start with the new stuff. Good question. Anything else? That brought us to pretty much the top of the hour. I'm pretty happy with this. This is totally. I'm going to change this for sure as far as how the code is structured, but at least this gives me kind of the skeleton of what I imagined this would look like. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's a good point. Is probably better than, and I guess that kind of comes down. The framework should probably be flexible enough that it could handle different cases that the content provider would do. But I think you're right that I like looking at video game tutorials, especially like mobile app tutorials. I like using those, looking at those as examples. But you're right that when in those mobile apps, they usually say if they want you to like drag something with your finger, they'll want you to drag it past a certain point. It'll show like a target zone, but probably easier for them to check would be, did they drag past that? And as soon as that triggers, they trigger the next step. So it stops listening for that. Yeah, I think that's a good point. So maybe the syntax just needs to be for either exact numbers, or we also had a syntax for greater than or less than a number. But great idea. I'm gonna write that down. Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for coming, Data Juggler, Will, Funky Boy. We'll pick this up next week. We have on Wednesday we have the live stream on defect detection with a special guest from Adobe, and then I'll have developer office hour on Friday. So hit me up if you've got some questions that you want me to look at for that. And that'll be it for today. Thanks, everyone. See ya.